also would be interested to hear your stories, ladies, as yeah, didn't hear for a while what's going on in your lives and how did Freya work for you?
Well, like we were talking about before we started recording, I personally had a lot of resistance to it as well. Um, every week I felt like, oh, the information was so good, and yet it was a mirror that I wasn't always um able to see in that moment. So it's definitely taken me some time to like process and integrate all of this. I finished the course just over a year ago, and wow, like so much has changed with dating, with my family, and honestly, I've just like calmed down a lot, and I'm not so reactive to things. And it's just made life a lot more enjoyable. I appreciate men a lot more, and I just feel so much more supported, and I'm able to receive help. And it's yeah, that's been a big thing for me because I did not like to receive help at all. I was like, I'm gonna do it myself and I'm gonna figure it out, and I don't want anyone's help, and you're not gonna tell me how to do it. And yeah, now I'm like, hey, if you want to help me, you want to do it. Like I just had my brother fix something on my car yesterday. He was trying to teach me how to do the second side because there was two things, and I was like, oh, I would just love it if you did it. I was like, I don't really care about learning how to do this. And he did it. Like he was like, okay. And I couldn't really reach either. And so it's given me so much more confidence with interacting with men, and realize that they're they're not out to get me. It's just that there's so many miscommunications, and just not realizing that usually they're responding as men, and we just don't understand that that's what they're doing because we expect them to be like us, be like women, and when they're not, we get frustrated. So um yeah, but there's been a lot of changes.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
More easy life and men willing more to be there for you, to support you, to help you. That sounds nice.
Yeah.
So for me, it sounds great. It's hmm, the idea of the course is to teach you about the nature of a man and basically how to trigger the masculinity within a man to be of service for you. Because this is what men want. They want to be there for women, any woman. Doesn't matter who this woman is. You as the sister, you as the daughter, you as girlfriend, wife. So that sounds nice. So would you say, now you said it's over 1 year ago you made a course, and in this 1 year, did you become better in communicating with men?
That's an understatement. Yes. And I learned how to talk a lot less, use a lot less words.
Okay, so less words, but more, how to say, hmm, more in a way a man could understand what it is you advise.
Exactly. Hmm.
Mm. Yeah. And we do know a man who knows what a woman, or yeah, a man who would know what a woman wants is a happy man. Cool. Like that. So
Lee, can I ask you a question? Are you married, single, dating?
he was single.
I'm I'm currently dating. Yeah. I mean, single, but dating.
So I know Sasha started Freya for attached women, and I think it was those women that have been in a relationship a long while. But one of the things I noticed when I was doing Freya, because I didn't meet my husband till I was 39, was I literally went through every relationship in my head that I'd had previously that I wondered why they didn't work. And particularly some that it was a mystery of like, why did they choose her and not me? Like I'm nice, and then once I truly understood what a man valued and what they thought, I could figure out all my old relationships and exactly where they went wrong. And I'm grateful they did because I've got a very nice husband. Has it changed the way that you date or go into dating?
Yes. I remember during the course, I was asking Sasha about my dating profile and I was reading it and um, I was still having a hard time with the men wanting to see what women want to hear. And so I had all this flowery language about, what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you can't catch a fish with chocolate. And I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean? And it took me some time to integrate that more. But so like with with dating and with what I'm sharing on social media, I'm being more intentional about showing what I want instead of just using so many words that, especially on the apps, that the men aren't necessarily reading because they're men. So if I want if I want to catch a man, I need to share in a way that he can understand instead of a way that a woman would understand because I'm not trying to date a woman.
Right.
Um, so like one of the things I did, because I want children, is I have a picture with my niece. You can't see her face, but and then I put a caption over the picture that says like this is my niece, but um and so they can see that okay, like she's with, a young child. And that shift with a dating profile and then just in general with understanding that men want to see what the words that we want to hear as women, that has changed a lot, especially with facial expression as well.
Mhm.
I actually smiled too much, or I was sending a mixed message a lot, with like most men I was interacting with or kids I nannied, or with my family. And so learning how to give the smile and the attention to what I liked, and then kind of leaving the rest really helped a lot, because I was trying to be nice or polite to men that I didn't want to interact with. Um, but then saying no, like, don't talk to me. And it didn't really work very well because I was still, offering my attention. And so that was also an interesting shift to change that.
Okay, Ashley, may I ask, so since you did the Freya course, as you are a single, or yeah, back then you were also a single and you have been dating, with all this knowledge from the Freya course, the type of man you're dating now, is it a different type?
Yeah, very much so.
More the type you would
I
like to have?
Yeah, well, I'm much less picky um about a lot of things that I thought mattered. And I'm more focused on, is he going to be able to provide, and do we have the same relationship goals? Like I was very concerned about hobbies and interests before, and like, oh, we have to be into the same things, or like the same kind of music, or and I think doing things together, is nice, a nice bonus. But I see the value in not trying to focus on that, but really like, you know, does he want to get married? Does he want to have children? Is he willing to be the provider? And And those other things are not as important. Um, and my list for a man was very long. It was like nobody's gonna fit this bill, and it it made dating really hard because I couldn't receive from men very well, and then when they didn't like fit my list, I was just disappointed. And so I don't have as many expectations or like requirements. And so it's just a lot more fun too. Dating and getting to know people, and it's not so much yeah, the expectations piece has definitely
So
changed a lot.
in general, would you say the dating became more easy since you did the Freya course?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because usually the woman 35 plus, they usually say dating it became much harder when you get older, which I do agree, dating with 20 is mostly much easier than even 30 or 35, 40. But you would say it became easier with Freya?
Yes. Um, and I've been less judgmental of men and myself, more compassionate, and I've softened a lot. So the type of man that I'm attracted to is a lot less feminine. Um, because I didn't realize how much of my, I guess, programming uh
So if I can repeat what I understood.
yep.
So since you took the Freya course, dating became easier,
Hmm.
and also the type of man changed. It's a different type than before, and the difference would be the man you're dating now would be more the masculine type,
Hmm.
which
Yes.
I do assume you prefer.
Yes.
Nice. Good.
And and another thing is I'm not expecting him to be my best friend,
Oh,
which
yes. The idea of our society that the husband or the man should be the best friend of yours. Yeah, doesn't work this way in biology.
no, and then again going back to those expectations, then you're just setting yourself up and him for failure essentially. With trying to make him, be your best friend, and then when he can't show up that way, then it just doesn't
Disappoint.
work out very well for either person.
If I remember right, you mentioned before you had a list of a man how he should be or how you wanted him, but when you found one who would fit this list, you didn't like him.
Pretty much.
Hmm. It's interesting. You have a list, which probably is not easy for a man to fit in, and then even if you find one, you don't like him. Ever thought why that would be so?
Well, my list was actually more feminine traits,
Hmm.
and especially this whole concept of emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, and that's women. That's not men. And so I just that was the biggest thing that I thought I was looking for. And then when I found a man like that, I was kind of repulsed and didn't love that part. But yet, from all the programming and just societal things, and I'm in America, so there's all of this romantic uh relationship stuff that is just not it's not really how we actually work.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
just for the movies.
Mm. Yeah, so this idealized romantic relationship that's not biological, it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would now prefer a biological relationship over a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Hmm. Interesting.
100%. Yeah.
It's reminded me, Ashley, of when, so I had many lists. I'm a great manifester. So, of course, I had my manifesting man book. And I realize now, listening to what you're saying, is I really thought I wanted a man who would stay up all night and drink wine with me and philosophize and, talk about, um, you know, I don't know, like really deep stuff. Now I realize, of course, that then when I found somebody like that, they were either quite depressed or feminine and all the things I didn't want because they weren't really taking control of their life and they didn't have a career path. They just complained about their work and did bare minimum. So I had no respect for them. And yes, they stayed
Hmm.
up drinking my wine all night that I had paid for. And and then I realized I had to take over the organizing role because they were rubbish and they were a bit down and I did that thing we talked about it, Sasha, the other day, didn't we? Where of course I was convinced I could change them all and make them into the men that I wanted. But I'd chosen that. And that was on my list. And then I realized my parents have got a very good relationship and they have quite a biological relationship. They have 5 children, quite traditional. But my dad would never have stayed up all night philosophizing with my mum in a million years. So it is when Sasha was talking about, remember when we did at the beginning, we did the lists of the male and female traits, and basically my class got them all wrong. And you suddenly do realize I probably had all those things on my list of what I thought I wanted in a man. And then I'm now not married to that at all. So you've just reminded me of the dreaded list that so many women say to me, but I want somebody I can spend every day with and every evening with and, stay up late. And I think, you're probably not going to find a very manly man who will do that with you.
You want a girlfriend, not a
Yes,
boyfriend.
yes. But when Sasha told us that was okay to have a girlfriend for those needs, like when I complain about something, he says, tell your girlfriend. And that's what your girlfriend's for, isn't it? And I suddenly realized that. Like, I actually think doing Freyja made me appreciate my female relationships as well as my
Yeah.
male relationships. Whereas maybe I thought that was wrong to go on a walk and tell my girlfriend everything, because I'm married now. But actually, my husband doesn't want to hear that.
Hmm.
Me just moaning about silly things.
Well, you reminded me, Heidi, about the female relationship part. That that took me a lot longer than the male relationship part. Because then having the knowledge of Freya, I saw just how many relationships and in my friends, in my family, and just out and about. When we just, as women, we just don't know what we don't know. And I was like, wow, so many women are unhappy, and yet they don't realize that they have the power to shift that in their relationships. And um, so it took me a while longer to have the compassion for those women that don't understand because they don't know what we know after taking this course. They don't understand the biological dynamics. So and I didn't either before taking that course. So it's taken me a lot longer to be more kind to the women, especially close to me that haven't taken Freya. Um, and I've learned the hard way that there's a lot of resistance, to uh, from them, and so like just to stay in my own lane and just continue doing this, awareness and working on what can I do to support myself and all of that because yeah. And these women, weren't even in the course. And I know I had resistance, but yet I still wanted to do it. But it has shifted a lot. It's probably taken, yeah, it's taken longer, but my relationships, like especially with my mom, has changed a lot. Um, and it's just made things a lot easier. Like we don't fight, and I don't take things so personally because I have softened so much that I'm just not bothered as easily. And so it's like everything is just more simple and more enjoyable with all of my relationships with men and women. And I didn't realize how difficult like I was making it by my own perceptions of not understanding, and that shift was huge. It was everything.
Cool. That's interesting for me to hear. I'm always excited to hear what women did with the knowledge from the Freya course. So, if I may repeat what I understood you saying is that in general, your communication with both genders became much better after taking the course.
Yes, exactly.
Should we jump over to Beth? Okay, Beth. Can you remind me, when did you take the course? Like,
A year and a half ago. I
yeah.
finished a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Okay, so how are you doing with all this knowledge? And
Oh, so much better. So much calmer. So much more ease. Just with understanding the facts, basically. Like we've been married 22 years and we had two amazing teenage daughters that I thought, if we have parenting dialed in like this, why can't we have marriage dialed in like this? And we'd gone to therapy, and the therapist told me I just needed to be more patient. I needed to give him more space. I needed to like back off, which, okay, was a little bit true. But when I backed off, he just backed off more. Ugh, right? So luckily, a friend warned me this class would be triggering, and I just like got on my like, well, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna figure this out. And so much made so much sense to me because of the biological piece. Like all of a sudden, this thing about if I ask him to act like my mom, then am I gonna want to go to bed with him? Actually, no, it doesn't work that way. I need two separate sets of support and connection. And it works much better if I expect him to be a man, treat him like a man, and then get a man as my husband. It's pretty simple, really. But there were so many ways in which, yeah, it was me. It was me doing the wrong thing and just not understanding what I was doing and why it wasn't working.
mm,
And then we just had this great example recently where we used to get all tangled up when he would ask me to drive, because he would say he wanted a break from driving, but then he had all these corrections to my driving, and I would be like, am I driving or you're driving? Like one of us should drive, not both, right?
mhm,
And suddenly I was, after the course, I was just like, okay, let's just try, let's just be really clean here. Will you please do all the driving and I will just sit and be serene? It
mhm,
was so lovely. We would get places in completely different energy. I was appreciating, I was knitting or, just quietly enjoying. And he was becoming more masculine by taking control. It was so great. Then finally, we were just driving back from his family's house after 8 years of not visiting extended family. So I got to compare and contrast 8 years ago how those trips would have been. And now, and he did say he was really tired. He was afraid he would fall asleep. Okay, this is dangerous. It was time for me to. He
take over.
thanked me for not being a brick wall. He thanked me for driving, and he did not criticize it. Like we have grown so much in that, precise example, but in so many areas like that, because basically I understand things so much better, but then he also appreciates and respects. Yeah, we just, I don't know. I mean, I really did go into the class worried about retirement, worried about like, what was it going to be like for us to be the two of us again, because we just get so tangled up. And then
Mhm,
Sasha explained to me, like, it makes sense why I like it when he goes away does hard, sweaty work, comes home all dirty, freshly energized in his masculine way, and I've had a little space, and yeah, it's just it's so great, so different. I still say I've taken a lot of classes. This was the best one ever, really.
Mm. Nice, thank you.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Okay. So, a question for both of you. Um, I know sometimes the information women get, it's not easy to take. It's kind of hard to swallow. May I ask, what was the hardest part for you? Like, what was the most triggering part?
You telling me that I wasn't honest
Uh,
because it was true. You made the point that men, they state their truth, they stick to it, and women, and now I say it's biological, I have an excuse, but if my child needs me, I will drop the dishes, I will drop the laundry, I will cancel on anything. If it's a serious enough need, I'm going to go take care of that child. So
mhm.
my word is always with a caveat. And it was important for me to,
So for you, the most triggering part was when you've been realizing that that was the part of honesty and truth, right?
yeah, but it was, I always thought I had good integrity. And you're like,
And
I'm
that's
lying. Yeah.
no integrity at all. Yeah.
I had to sit with that one a couple weeks, but then, yes, I see your point. You're right.
Yeah. It's not about being right or not,
No,
wrong.
it's truth. It's truth. And it's actually something I'm not looking to change.
It's
I want it to be my grandchild needs me. I'm leaving those dirty dishes behind.
yeah. So it's the biological way,
Hmm.
and it's not good. It's not bad. It is biology. It is what you are.
Hmm. But
Yeah.
it's also interesting to notice that if my husband abandons a task, there is a reason why it scares me because it's biological for him to finish. It's
Mm.
biological for him to say, that child with the broken down car can wait 10 minutes while I finish my project.
Yeah. I mean, this is. I also
Mm.
realized when a woman are all in emotions, and if something happens in a good or bad way, it doesn't matter. It's an emotion, and this emotion seems to trigger a woman to communicate it. And
Yep.
she wants to communicate it right now at this same moment. And if I don't give her attention for it, so if I don't give her attention for her emotions, it's almost like a woman probably feels like rejected. So
Mhm.
it doesn't go by, I'll be with you in 5 minutes. Yeah, it's like or my impression was she feels like rejected. Even, when I would finish my part, then I could give full attention to whatever she would want to communicate, right? So that, yep. So, okay. And Ashley, for you, what was the most triggering part?
Well, I feel like there was something triggering like every week, but I think the thing I can still remember that really irked me was you said to me a couple times I think, but about the dating and being on the dating apps, and you said there's men everywhere. Why are you on those apps? And I was just like, what is he talking about? There's men everywhere. And I realized because I definitely scoffed and I was like, ah, what is he saying? Like it just I couldn't see it in that moment, and it took me a while to like see that, but I realized that I wasn't seeing men for men. And so I was just seeing them as people, and um and the men that I was trying to attract were definitely more feminine because of how I was. And so that it just really irked me because I was like, what is he talking about? There's men everywhere. Like, okay. And then started to see it. And like one of my favorite things when I still lived in Austin was going to the grocery store and just really practicing smiling, and like I'm only 5'1", so I'm pretty short, and I can't reach things at the store. And I swear for a while, like every week they would move my protein powder like higher, another higher shelf. And I used to climb in my cart and try to get it myself. Like that's how much I would not let anyone help me. And this whole, there's men everywhere. I was like, okay, let me play with this. So I started having fun with asking for help at the grocery store. And the most interesting interaction that I had with a man at the store, he was in one of those motorized scooters. So he's sitting down, and it was like pretty late, and I always asked another person shopping. I never asked staff because I know they have to. So I purposely didn't ask a staff member because I was like, oh, this will be more fun this way. And so I would just kind of like look around the aisle, just smiling, like, okay, I need help, but like, where's a man that can help me? And this one time, this guy in this motorized scooter was coming down the aisle, and I was trying to get some cooking oil, and it was high up on the shelf and far back. And so I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to reach this. And he's the only one around, and realizes like, I need some help. But I didn't ask him because he was in the scooter. Like, I don't know his abilities. And he's like, hey, ma'am, like, do you need some help? And he stands up, and he's like 6 foot something. Like, he was like real tall, and like, it was so easy for him to get it. And I was just so grateful. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And then he was so smiley and happy that he was able to help someone. And I was like, how often in my life have I, because I need to do it myself, have not given myself the opportunity to receive, and or then not let the men be needed and be men, which is what they need. And I was like, oh, it was so great. So I had a lot more fun with receiving from men in like lots of ways like that, that wasn't necessarily dating. But then yeah, also with dating, that changed a lot as well.
That's my personal interest. If you shared the information in Freyja with some other woman who haven't been in the course, how did they receive it and how did it end?
Not very well. Made that mistake a few times, actually recently too. And I was like, I guess I haven't haven't learned that yet. Yeah, I shared a few things with one of my coworkers a couple months ago at the restaurant I was working at, and she got very upset and was just trying to argue with me about it. And I was like, yeah, I guess I haven't learned this lesson, because for me it was so life-changing. I'm like, why wouldn't everyone want to know this information? But then outside of the container and outside of the full picture, it it is more difficult to swallow or digest. And so your advice at the beginning about not sharing outside of the group, I was like, I I see the intelligence behind that, because I'm like, oh, right, this is why what Sasha said. Um, yeah, like not to do it. So
Yeah, it is hard for some people hearing something which is not coming from mainstream, which basically goes, we almost could say some of the Freya principle go pretty much against what we see as normal,
mhm.
right? So I just wanted to hear it. And Beth, how about you?
Well, sometimes if I'm able to slow down enough and present it more like, actually, we have a lot of power as women. We have more power than we think. And it doesn't work for me to say men are stupid, but just to say, if you're treating your dog like your cat, maybe it isn't going to work. right? Like,
That's a good one.
I
yeah,
like that.
trying to say like it's a different game than I thought I was playing in the beginning of my marriage. And treating him how I want to be treated almost always gets the reverse of what I wanted. And there are some very powerful trigger words that are not trigger words to me. Like if I say, "Do you need some help?"
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the wrong thing. If I say, "Do you want some support?" Oh, yeah. Why is that such a big difference, right? But it
Whoa.
is. And it's actually a little more universal than I used to think. So slowly, yeah, not expecting people to want all of it at once, not expecting them to be excited, but um,
So,
some are a little bit curious, more curious than others.
mhm. But in general, when you share the insights of Freya, of the Freya principles, how do people react? Positive or negative?
Well, that's why I don't do too much. Just say the part about we're so powerful, and just changing your language can make a big difference.
Hmm. Okay.
Or like telling the story of how my husband used to hate it when I frowned. And I used to think that was so rude of him to be wanting my face to be a certain way. And then Sasha said, like, basically, there's two faces, right? And he feels like life is good if I have a smile and life is horrible if I'm frowned. Okay, then, it makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
So sometimes I can also be playful and there can be some openness too from other women. But yeah, it did also help me need less to like because all of my energy has changed. It used to be like I was going to go fix everything, and that dialed back makes my information a little more appealing or something, I think.
Ladies, do
Yeah.
you think that people have noticed the difference in so since taking Freya, I would say if I told my friends, which I did, um bits and pieces about Freya, they would be a bit bristly. But then I noticed that my married friends, so my single friends were still convincing I was selling out on feminism, but my married friends started to notice that I just seem much more chilled and I mean my marriage was doing fine, but I think I we had a lot of obstacles over the last couple of years, and they saw how we were coping with them, and so therefore then they became a bit more interested in Freya of like, well, what do you mean? It's because you've done Freya. And also going back to what you were saying, Beth, is I truly believe that I did not have the power to change my relationship.
Mm.
I'm from England, I'm British, we don't do counselling here. If you go to marriage counselling, it's because you've been referred. So I mean, it's not, I mean, it's more so, but it's not the norm here. And I remember thinking, my husband just, if he could just understand me better, if he could just have a written sheet of what I want, then my life would be so much easier. And I remember one day saying, we should go. He's not a great communicator. And now I understand men, he's normal. I thought if we went and sat in front of a counsellor, and then I truly thought the counsellor would say, for God's sake, man, you're not doing any of it right. You need to listen to this amazing woman who, is great. And I really did think that. And because, of course, I wanted to be right at everything. So I actually asked him once, we haven't been married that long, sort of 10 years. And I said, would you go and see somebody? I didn't mention the word counsellor because he would have been like, what? And old school. And he said, no, if we need to go to counselling, we need a divorce. And I was like, whoa, that is, how evil are you that you wouldn't even try harder in our marriage by showing up in front of somebody and seeing how right I am. You'd rather divorce me. Now, he loves me and he doesn't want to divorce me, but that's how strong. It was like, don't mention it again, it's not happening. So I truly thought, like, well, you have to do it together, don't you? You have to go to marriage counselling to change things together. You can't change things on your own because me going on a course, and I have done billions over the years, I'm the self-help book owner. I'm all for growth. I've been trying to find myself since I was 10. And Freyja has possibly been the only course that I've now thought I probably don't need so much now, less is more type thing. But it wasn't until I met Sasha and realized that we have the power, like we have the power to change their reaction and
Yeah.
them way more than I ever thought. So I thought he was the one who really needed to go to therapy, but I would have just go along because, he wouldn't go on his own type thing. And him saying he wouldn't go, I took major offense to that because I just saw that as not trying. Whereas he saw it as I was just criticizing him. So he couldn't see anything past the criticism. And then when I started learning the Freya way, as I call it, I realized that my actions really changed everything. Like, and he didn't even need to go to therapy. Like he didn't even, and he didn't, poor man, at all. Like he's just a normal guy. But I truly believe that because he didn't understand me, and I really wanted that relationship where my man totally understood me. And then just by Sasha explaining the factual stuff, which did trigger me in many, many places, because I was like, what does this guy know? Like, why am I even 1 week, Sasha? I wasn't going to come to week 5 because I
I
was like,
know.
yeah, I'm screw this. I'm not coming back for that. And now I know that that was the bit I really needed to look at. I can't even remember what it was now, but there was, many weeks that I felt like I left a bit bristly. But when you start putting it into action, and I think this is where some people take longer to put it to start, doing it the Freya way, because they think, no, it can't work. There's no way that that can happen. Then when you see things change, that's
Mhm.
when my friends were like, I want that. What do you mean you're not going to therapy? You're not spending thousands every week or every month on therapy and you're not having to show up somewhere and shame him, which is what I would have done in therapy. And I would have got worse, wouldn't I? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing he said no, right?
Yeah, because now looking back, I'm thinking I would have just done nothing but be mean to him, thinking I would have picked a female therapist would take my side and tell him all the things he was doing wrong and make my life easier, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you saved yourself some money. I'm telling you, it's not the
Yeah, it was
answer.
much cheaper to do Freya. But it is hard to explain to some people, isn't it, what Freya is all about? Because it is a whole package, and like I hate the word journey, but it is that going through, like when Sasha gives us homework, I would roll my eyes because I would be like homework. But actually doing practical things that actually
Mhm.
worked,
Mhm.
yeah, I could go on for hours and I won't. How things have just changed just by changing what I now think should have been taught to us in school or by our mums and I truly
Mhm.
believe that our parents and my grandparents were doing some of this. It just wasn't named. It just
Mhm.
wasn't,
Mhm.
Yeah.
put out there. So when I look at my grandparents and my parents' life, they did get married in their early 20s or before, and they did stay, choose to stay at home with their children and were very happy about it. Whereas I was brought up that you were a sado if you did that, and don't be that person. And I think, well, that's all I ever wanted to be, but I pretended to everybody that I didn't
Mhm.
because I thought that that's what society told me that I didn't want to get married and have children and, be a happy mum. It's crazy now, I look back. And I clearly took a lot longer to find a husband because of it, too. Anyway, I wasn't going to take over and I did. Ladies, is there anything else that you would like to say to anybody out there thinking about doing Freya or something that you loved about it? It wasn't all hard work and triggering.
Oh, it's a great community too. Like, as we give our friends and family their time for their journey, um, it's so powerful to have the awesome group and the support for yeah, I mean, it's like it's different to take full ownership, but the rewards are huge.
Yeah, I think because I didn't know that the big Freya group that was going to be a thing after we completed the course, and that has been so helpful in just applying and integrating this stuff, every week. And with dating, with family dynamics, with friends, and just having that community and support of other women showing up and living their life through that Freya lens, like that has made such a difference, especially because none of the women around me, in physical proximity are really seeing things that way. And so that's been really, really helpful and just really supportive. And that's one of the things I've been most grateful for. And I didn't know that that was going to be part of it. And so I'm really grateful for that as well.
For me, it's been sort of a place to find a tribe who understand where you're coming from and want to respect their husbands and want to live biologically. And I did meet like a more biological community over the years because I've tried to live that sort of life. But I've also then met quite a lot of crunchy organic mums, and I never really fitted in with them either. So, but I thought they were more my tribe. And then having when things have gone wrong, having the bigger Freya group that we're all part of just means like there's someone who will get it from your lens and see it, whereas your friends don't always, do they? And when I've had some tough times, my friends' first advice is divorce. You think, well, that's not very helpful. That's going to come with its own problems too. So having people who've looked at it from the same way as you, but it was still growing, and then of course the community is still growing because we still run Freya classes. And the other thing I've noticed is being able to go back and look at subjects. So if it's been talked about before, that's quite helpful to look back through. And then moving forward, Sasha's agreed we're going to do 4 Freya Q&As a year that anybody can do. But ladies and Sasha, thank you so much. I've had a blast. I should have put wine in my cup. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Yes.
Sasha?
Ashley, thank you very much coming. And Beth, you too. It's really nice, a pleasure to see you too. And hearing that you're doing really well with this biological way.